This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. I have one. Do you have one? Well, I'll tell you, I have one because you're in mine. What am I talking about? Audience. Audience, my friends. I have the audience building guru, Linda Claire Puig. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we have an audience. I mean, both people are listening right now. Both of them are out there. Let's zoom out 30,000 feet to get started. Tell us about how you came to the work that you're doing today with audience building, with helping experts and coaches and consultants and authors build a meaningful audience and an engaged audience. What were some of the steps along the way? What was your professional journey?
That's a very good question. My professional journey started actually as a journalist, which gave me a certain set of skills that when I started applying it to my own business weren't enough. It wasn't just about writing well, it was about connecting with a certain type of person that you wanted, your ideal client. It was about building that group of people, building a group of colleagues that can, share each other's work with communities. And, it was a whole evolution of my own understanding. And it's not just about like growing that audience, it's about how you relate to that audience. And that was probably the hardest, and now that I look back, silliest challenge for me, because I just wanted to be in the background. When I first started sending newsletters to my list, it was from my business. You didn't see me in there at all. And that's how I wanted to stay. And I realized after 2 years of doing that it was not the way to do it. And I had to actually step forward and, be myself and be who I, just expose myself. That sounds really awful.
In a good way.
Yep. Just show up, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so it took you 2 years. I'll tell you, it took me 10. It took me 10 years to figure this out. The joke that I used to make, and this is maybe with consultants and coaches, this may be the tendency. People said, so what do you do? I said, well, I'm the guy behind the guy. Mm-hmm. And they look at me like, what? I said, well, sometimes I'm the guy behind the guy behind the guy. They're like, okay, this guy has no idea what he's doing. But my news, just like yours, my newsletter, everything was like company, products, services, offers. It's like, where's David Newman? So now we talk about personal branding. Now we talk about building a following. I know this is one of your huge areas of expertise where you help people tremendously. Talk about building an online following and what that means today and what that does for you today.
I actually think that we're in a super exciting period for that. And I'll explain why. I mean, we are still in sort of the grips of a pandemic, right? But what did we learn? What did we as a culture, as a world learn was that being online is a very solid way to connect, right? So having that ability to be online meant that people could start working from anywhere. And that's always been a huge thing for me. I've worked from all kinds of different countries. I even lived in Italy for a while and created a whole program and a launch from there. I mean, it's a really important part for me. Everybody's definition of freedom is different, obviously. But for me, my definition is traveling and being able to run my business from anywhere. And so having that online business, which is supported by an online audience, I call them freedom followers, right, is what makes that all possible.
Now, some people, and I know some of your clients and the people that follow you, they might initially come in and they say, Linda, I want more numbers. I'm a very numbers-driven person. I only have 400 people on LinkedIn. I want 4,000. I only have 1,200 followers on Twitter. I want 12,000. I only have 800 email newsletter subscribers. I want 8,000. Can you help me? Is that the right come from? Are those even the right questions?
They're not bad questions. There's no problem. There's nothing wrong with having ambition and desire to spread your service and what you do, the impact that you have to many more people. That's not at all a problem. But it has to first come from, are they the right people? And so it's always quality over quantity. You never want to, have a flood of people in that really could care less about what you actually offer as a business, right? An 8,000 person list doesn't do anything if they're not your buyers. So it's super, super, super important to target the right people, but also to then develop this quality of relationship with them that they stick around, that they become engaged with you and your life and your business and what you offer and whatnot. And without that, it does no good, absolutely no good to build a big, humongous list.
So let's talk about that. I think this whole concept of an engaged follower tribe or group, people that look forward to hearing from you, people that when they say, oh, you know what? Linda Claire has this new book. I'm not even sure what's in it, but it's awesome because I love her. Right. I'm on her list. I see her Facebook lives. I've gone to her live events. I've seen her speak. Whatever she puts out, I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yep.
And, we look up to people like this. We look up to the Oprahs of the world and the Seth Godins of the world and people like this. And we somehow think it's magic. Like this just happened by magic to a guy named Seth, little bald guy. All of a sudden, the whole world loves him. But there's all kinds of things behind the scenes that years and decades ago, these people intentionally put into place to make sure that they would start with initially a tiny microscopic following. Everyone starts with one subscriber. I say this to my clients all the time, Linda Claire. I say, everyone starts with one YouTube subscriber, with one email subscriber, with one fan on Facebook, with one LinkedIn connection. Maybe it's your mom.
Might be your mom.
Maybe it's your dog. Maybe it's your spouse. Hey, this interview is a real moneymaker. If you're serious about ramping up your reach and revenue as a speaker, trainer, or expert, book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team. The link is doitmarketing.com/call. It will be the most valuable 45 minutes you invest in your speaking-driven business. Speaking of value, let's get back to the show. Let's go back to kind of square zero. Let's say someone has just left the corporate world. God bless these people.
Yes.
And they say, Linda Claire, I want to build a platform. I want to build a following. What's step one? What's step two? What's step three? How would you advise them? How would you coach them and train them?
Well, step one is knowing who you want to serve. Step two is knowing what you have to offer. And those are kind of like step 1A and 1B. They really go hand in hand. It's not necessarily that one comes before the other. They have to come together. And then step 3, I guess, is to know where those people are. And in today's world, we want to know where they are exclusively online. But in other worlds, in the world that we're hopefully coming back into, they will be offline and online, right? So you can get in front of them in person or you can get in front of them online. But for my purposes, I always want to have an online audience so that I can take them with me wherever I go. So that's step 3, is to really find out where they are. And what, after you've identified them, then you kind of have a sense of what they need, what they want from you in terms of what you can give. So you find a way to attract them with what they want. You want to start with what they want, not what they need, because they don't always know what they need. And my biggest advice is get them over to your email list. A lot of people make the mistake of just engaging on social media. And they think that's all they need to do. And honestly, every single successful business and business person, who's really got it going on has an email list.
The money is in the list, as they used to say in the good old days, right?
It is. Absolutely.
And that's only gotten more important, not less. So let's say that we have someone they're ready to listen. They're ready to kind of, okay, I got it. I want to build an email list. First thing we do, is it a lead magnet? Is it a newsletter? Kind of what's the sequence of building the foundations of a follower strategy?
Ideally, you will start with what I call your starter list. You'll start sending them newsletters, musings, whatever. You'll start engaging with them over email and keep that going and then just invite new people into that. I know a guy who has a phenomenal business and he wrote emails to his audience for an entire year before he offered anything. It's always a good idea to get in practice of doing that anyway. So when you're inviting more and more people, you've got it down rather than inviting a bunch of people and then a year later start communicating with them on a regular basis. So I think that is first. A lot of people put the lead magnet first, but I really think get your starter list and then just start communicating with them as you are developing your lead magnet.
I think someone once said there's no such thing as writer's block. There's only thinking block. So I love what you said about musings, tips, ideas. Where do people get this data bank of content that they should start emailing their people about? Is it just literally personal musings? Should it be research? Should it be, hey, here's a cool article I found, check it out? Should it be a short 300 to 500 word kind of little mini article? What would be the easiest, least friction thing for most people to start writing?
Well, the easiest thing is a done for you product, right? I have a website that does that. It's called readytogoarticles.com. And that's the easiest. But if you want to start really testing and developing your own writing chops, some people, that's like pulling teeth. So they're not even going to go there. So if you're not going to go there, then find help. But if you're interested in developing your writing and what happens is as you're developing your writing, you're also developing your understanding of your audience and your understanding of your voice and how you interact with, how you come across, how you want to come across. So it's always good practice. But I think that the most ideal thing is to have a schedule that you stick to. Start out with once a week. A lot of people think once a week, but no, really once a week. And then you can graduate up to twice a week. And what you're sending are things that your people would find helpful. And you know what those things are because you have already identified your audience. And maybe you've interviewed a couple of them, but you really understand their life. You understand their life on a real visceral basis. Like you could imagine what they're doing throughout their day and then what they're worrying about in the evening when they're, trying to fall asleep or whatever.
Right.
So, what is it? What is it that will soothe the anxious beast that lives within them? What is it that will further their desires and their aspirations? And I think 300 to 500 words is great. It can be shorter, it can be longer. It really depends. You can start discovering that as you're sending out more and more what people respond to.
Now, we're obviously living in an age where video and video content is getting more and more important. Could we have an email strategy that instead of writing, because all your clients that say, oh, Linda, I really don't like to write, it was terrible, I don't know what to do. They say, what if I shoot a 2-minute video? What if I put that on my YouTube channel? Then I have an email in which I embed the video. Could I send that out? And that becomes my content and that becomes my followership strategy that I share a 2-minute video that's really helpful to my audience once or twice a week.
Absolutely. It's all about finding out what works best for you and what works best for your audience. Be careful when you're trying to embed video, though. Just make sure it's done in a way that doesn't make it a humongous email file that takes forever to open. People will just get, tired of that and not even click on it. But yeah, absolutely. Some people are just like, I can do video, but I don't love it. So that's not where I typically go. My strength is writing, so I write. Everybody else has a different strength. So go where your strength is.
Yes, absolutely. Linda Claire, let me ask you this. As far as some do's and don'ts, once we start to get some steam going here, it's like, oh, I've got 400 people on my email list. No, wait, now I've got 600. Oh, look, I just hit 750. We might be tempted to start getting greedy. And when we get greedy, we get pitchy. And when we get pitchy, we start getting salesy. And then every email is buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. What's the discipline that you share with your folks to keep that in check? And or where should they be making offers, or where should there be some subtle invitations about some sort of next step?
Such good questions you have, David. Yeah, you must know your audience. I think you do well. So definitely you want to make sure. This was one of the hardest things for me to learn when I first started doing marketing, which a newsletter is marketing. But so I thought marketing meant promoting, right? That was my understanding when I first started my business. And it felt so awkward. Even when I would write articles, they would sound kind of salesy and promotey at some point. And I just knew it didn't feel right, but I didn't really know what to do because I was caught with the thought that I think a lot of people have that if I give away my knowledge, I won't have anything to sell, right? And trust me, I mean, you can hear from a million people, but until you start trying it and practicing it, you'll see it's not true. You will always have people who want to work deeper with you. You will always have ways to share great and wonderful content and then reserve the the cream of the crop content for people who pay. So it's absolutely, like, I just call it the economy of generosity. You really want to just be generous with what you know that helps them, what you know that influences their life in a great way. So I think that, what you really want to do is spend a lot of time nurturing. And the nurturing is what has those tips and articles and poems or whatever else, that you're going to include. And I think it's not a bad idea to have some little call to action in each nurture email, but it can be really subtle, a single line or something like that, just so people know that you're in business, you're welcoming clients, right? But when you really have something that you want to fill, whether that's a course or a program or some VIP slots or whatever it is, then create a campaign. And a campaign is basically a given defined period of time where you're going to be sending multiple promotional emails, because that focuses people's attention and it gives them some urgency to buy. And it comes and goes, so you can promote a lot within like a couple week period, and then you go back to your nurturing.
Super quick commercial break. Isn't this interview amazing? If you'd like to get more ideas on how to start or grow your speaking business fast, pop over to our free training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. Let me ask you this. There are these trends and fads that come and go in the internet marketing world. Mm-hmm. So 4 or 5 years ago, everybody was talking about curation. We're all curators. We should be curating content. Don't worry about writing content, Linda Claire. That's crazy town. Find 5 great articles in your industry. Find 5 awesome blogs. Find 3 terrific podcast episodes. And then you become known as the curator and the coordinator of these cool things that you can direct your audience's attention to.
The resource library.
Exactly. 5 cool podcasts that you should listen to this week, etc. Does curation play a role? Do you recommend curation today, or is that kind of passé and people really need to share their own thought leadership instead, or is it both?
It's both, but I think I would weight it heavier on your own material. And the reason is that, number one, people are really busy. So if you curate 5 or 10 things in a given email, not many people are going to go check out all of those things. Yeah. So give them something simple that they can consume and digest right there. And I mean, it's better than nothing to send, a curated email. It's better than nothing. At least it's a touch. At least it says, right, I know you're interested in this topic. So here, look what I found for you. So there's nothing bad about it. But when it's your stuff, then you start to become associated with that. It's like you own that content then. I don't mean from a copyright standpoint. I mean from a thought leadership standpoint. Right. And your audience starts to see you more and more and more as an expert.
So let's talk about methods and media. Mentioned video a couple of minutes ago. You'll hear all of this buzz, and I'm sure there's a next thing and a next thing and a next thing. But looking back over the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years, blogging is going to be the new email. Blogging is the new newsletter. No, wait. Podcasting is the new blogging. No, hang on. Live streaming is the new podcasting, right? So wait a minute. So is blogging the new email? Podcasting is the new blogging. Video is the new podcasting. You lost me. What should I be doing? So how early should we be surfing these trends? And what should we be kind of anchored in and always going back to?
I am a bit of an anarchist when it comes to that question, because I stick with the foundations. That works for me. I just don't enjoy a lot of the things that come and go as trends. And I don't enjoy adding them to my, what feels like an already busy work life, right? So that's me. It's not to say that somebody should not check them out and try them. I just found, my own testing the waters, it just never felt right. Every time a trend comes out, I have a group of colleagues that will, go back and forth with each other about results. There aren't all that many things that have really super solid results in the same way that email does. So I'm like, let's just focus on email. And I don't want to say that to poo-poo anything, because some people are wizards at Instagram. Some people are amazing at what they do with Facebook and Clubhouse, this new lightning storm that's taking the industry. It's crazy. So some people are really, really good at that. So I think that what you do is just really pay attention to who you are and what feels right for you, and also your audience. It's likely that you've developed an audience that is in touch with the same modes that you're interested in. So yeah, I'm not saying don't try it, and I'm not saying don't stretch. Everybody deserves and should be stretching. And I think that for me, and I think for a lot of people, the most challenging growth producing things that have happened in my life have been parenting and having a business. It will stretch you in ways. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It's great. But I'm a foundations girl.
I like it. It reminds me, some seasoned entrepreneurs and speakers, consultants, trainers might be listening and saying, this reminds me of the old phrase, it worked so well, I stopped doing it. Why? Why did you stop doing it? Linda Claire, I used to send an email newsletter, and, clients would open it and clients would send thank yous and replies and say, oh, hey, by the way, that thing that you just wrote to me about, we have a need for something like that. We should probably talk. But now you got sucked into social media, you got sucked into this or video or live streaming, and we forget the basic blocking and tackling, and we're not dancing with the one that brung us.
Right. And it's interesting because it's not just us. It's not just our industry. It's everywhere. And the way that I love to demonstrate that is there are 2 articles from the Wall Street Journal from 2009, I think, and then 2019. And the one in 2019 is all about email's dead. And the one in 2019 is the newest thing that's really hot. It's email.
Everything old is new again.
Right.
So funny. Well, as we're wrapping up, I've got 2 questions for you. The final question is, where can people go to get more brilliance from you, get connected and stay connected to your world and some cool resources? But even before we get to that, the second to last question is, if folks were to take one central concept from our conversation today about building a following, building a meaningful following, building an engaged following, what do you hope that one central takeaway idea might be?
This is going to sound a little funny, maybe, but for me, it's about loving your audience. I really think that that's it. Like, you have to feel that for them in a big way and in an individual one-on-one way. And when you do, they feel that, they understand you and what you're trying to do with them. I think that's what I want to say.
Totally fantastic. Now, how do people get connected and stay connected to more Linda Claire Puig brilliance?
Thank you for asking. I actually have a book coming out, and it's coming out on March 29th. Actually, it's probably already up on Amazon, but from March 29th to April 2nd, it's free. So if you want to go get it, and the name of it is Free. It's a little bit of a play on this economy of generosity that we've talking about, but also as it relates to freedom, how your online following sets you free.
And where might people go to get this free book about free?
You can find it at 6-Figure Newsletters. That's with the numeral 6, 6figurenewsletters.com/2021-book.
Fantastic. And we will put that in the show notes directly below this episode, but it's only free from March 29 to April 2nd.
Yes.
So don't be emailing Linda Claire. Don't be emailing me on April 3rd or sometime in the year 2027 when you're listening to this. Go, where's my free book? It was free for 3 days, people. You had to pay attention. You had to be here.
5 days.
I'm sorry, 5 days. Yeah. So not a math major,
right.
Not a math major. 5 days. You have 5 days.
You have no excuse, right?
March 20. Oh, I guess March has 31, right?
Yeah.
Look at that. Look, so man, oh man, this is why I'm in marketing and not math. This is why. Well, Linda Claire, you are so awesome, so fantastic. Thank you for sharing your brilliance with us. We have to have you back. We have so much more to talk about. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Let me come back and interview you. That would be fun.
Done deal. Let's make it happen.
All
right.
like it.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.